And we are live. Hey, Concrete.
Hey, Danny, what's good with your mama? Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday, honey. How are things?
Absolutely fantastic. And I am in a surprisingly good mood. Excited for today's show. But how has your weekend been? How are you doing?
I am doing pretty good. I woke up in a good mood too. I didn't sleep real, for whatever reason, we've done I'm not gonna say we've done 100 interviews, but we've done quite a few interviews, and I'm like, holy shit, I'm nervous. And so I'm nervous.
Really?
Yeah, I actually kind of woke up a little nervous today. I was like, girl, act like you got some
Dang.
sense. Act like you didn't did this before. And so
I'm
I'm
trying to
just
think of
excited.
one interview I was nervous for. If there was one interview that I was nervous for, it was probably like Wesley Pipes. That was one of our earliest interviews. It was kind of outside of the realm of what I was comfortable talking about, like on air publicly. So I was like, even when you brought up that idea, I was like, I don't know. That's a little
Girl,
risque.
I thought I was gonna have to go get the can for you, honey. I really did.
I was
Baby.
rejecting that. I was like, that's a little too risque. You talking about a porn star? You was
Girl,
like,
I was like, this is
concrete.
one of the biggest, girl. I was like, if I had to come on and do it by myself, we was gonna do that. I was like,
Listen,
sis, no
oh my
ma'am,
gosh.
come
It was
on.
like pulling teeth originally for you to convince me because I was like, absolutely. And to be completely honest, swear to God, did not know who he was. I knew the name. So I had heard of the name, but I wouldn't be able to know him like walking up. I swear, like, I don't
Concrete,
even
we know
watch
you had your
anything
long
remotely
skirt on,
close.
boo.
Listen, since
We know
like
you had the
probably
skirt
the
down to the
90s.
ankles on that day,
What?
baby. We
No,
know.
I just didn't know. Like, I don't know his face. So when you said it, I'm like, who? And you was like, girl, da 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 da. And I'm like, oh, Wesley
Don't
Pipes. I'm
make it
like,
sound
I
like I
don't
knew
know.
everything about him. Don't
Child,
do
listen,
that.
she
Don't
gave
do
me
me
the
now.
bio, the rundown. Like, he was in slut shaming and so like telling me his whole bio,
I'm
movie
not finna
bio.
do this with
I'm
you,
like,
ma'am.
oh,
Don't do
okay,
that.
that's him.
Don't do me, ma'am.
I'm
Concrete, I
so
was able to
glad.
run down all the movies.
Listen, I'm glad that you were like insistent on us doing that interview because it did allow me to open up and like stop being such a prude and like, girl, like what you scared to talk about? You a grown woman. We should be able to talk openly and have a tactful conversation about, porn and anything else we want to talk about. So I'm glad that you were like not letting up.
Yes, honey, that part. But let me give out these shout outs, honey. Shout out to the real Dana up in this thing. Hey, Dana.
Hey, Dana.
Thank you for the super sticker. And then Dana
Absolutely.
came right back with it.
Oh.
Like, hey, keep up the good work, great content. FYI to all the Dusties, if you're going to hate, then donate, but keep it respectful, honey.
That part.
Now that's the word, that part. Thank you
Mm-hmm.
so much for that super chat, Dana. Shout out to my husband. Hey, daddy. He said this is gonna be good, baby.
Yes, indeed. He know it. He know it.
Wait a minute. We got some more. Oh, y'all showing all the love today.
Oh, I love it.
Hey, Jessica. She came through with a super sticker. Thank you so much for that. We appreciate it. Shout out to Karan Williams. He says, y'all got me salivating waiting for this. Gotta hear the Exotical's opinion. This woman is gold for real. I will not tolerate disparaging comments from the Dust Gang.
I'm glad he said that.
On his duties today.
Listen, yes, I'm glad he said that because that is a word. As you guys know, we're not tolerating disrespect. We do have a special guest, and she's going to be joining us within the next minute or so. And we definitely want to keep it respectful. You guys can disagree all you want with her opinions or, any of the rhetoric that you hear on today's discussion, but do it in a tactful manner and like no disrespect. We ain't tolerating it. Thank you, Karan, for the reminder.
That part. Shout out to Sweet Melody Speaks. She says, like on the way in. Thank you, Melody. And shout out to Jessica X again. She says it should be a great show. We hope we do a little something today.
You know, a little something. But this is going to be a great show. Thank you guys for getting us started. And before we even enter the building, thank you guys for all the love that you are showing by way of super chat.
Yes.
It's going to be a very good show, very good discussion. I'm excited.
Now, Concrete, are you gonna play good cop or bad cop today? Which one you?
What am I typically?
The bad cop.
No, baby, listen.
You've been on your pick me shit like a lot lately, so I don't know.
Listen, I'm typically
you gonna be
the good cop
today. I think you gonna be sisterhood today, baby.
That's what you calling. We gonna see. We shall see. But listen, the thing is, I am always the good cop unless these fools come up in here with their white supremacy talking points. When they come with the white supremacy talking points, the bad cop comes out and she's staying out. So, I mean, you got to expect.
Girl, Goldie even said you're going to be the bad cop, baby. She even said, Goldie.
We shall see.
She gonna be on her sisterhood shit hard today, baby.
I got a whole I can't stand Danny. I got a whole Sag sitting next to me. It's rare that I play the bad cop unless they come with the white supremacist talking points. Then I can't help myself. I mean, it just comes out of me. Hey, what can I say?
Girl.
Shannon Wild said woke cop. That part, yeah, that's about right.
Kenny Wiles, don't get her started, baby.
Demetrius, you a hater.
Honey.
Listen,
baby,
the whole hater. But
we figured y'all was gonna come with the sisterhood talking
you already today. Know,
baby. I was like, we gonna be all kind of sisterhood.
You know it.
You and Goldie, and she got a rich on their channel. Get over it. Y'all gonna be okay, baby. Take some aspirin.
I'm trying to tell you.
Go take a nap. No, don't go take a nap because you don't want to miss it.
Take a nap afterwards.
Yeah, you gonna probably need a nap.
You know how when your kid acts up and you like they need a nap? Like that's that's essentially what we'll be seeing in the chat. People acting up because they need a nap. It's about that time. It's almost noon here on the East Coast. Some of these folks will need to take a nap afterwards. So
yeah. Well, Goldie is here. Guys, we are serious about the disrespect. None will be tolerated. Let's act like some grown-ups. I appreciate y'all, and let's get started. Welcome, Goldie. Hey, Goldie.
Hey, ladies. How y'all doing?
Outstanding. How are you?
I'm doing so well. Thank you so much for having me up and inviting me to a formal panel. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Yes, we really appreciate the opportunity. We believe this is your first panel that you've been on since you actually started the petition, or actually since the petition blew up. And so thank you for allowing us this opportunity to interview you and get your side of things. We really appreciate that.
Oh, you are so welcome. There is no other place I would have gone first than with you two ladies.
You're so dope. We absolutely love it, and we are so excited to hear from you and hear your commentary as it relates to this petition that has been created and is causing such a stir in this space.
Honey, let's talk about some of the places the petition has made it to. It's made it to Tasha K. It's made it to Rolling Out. Made it to O'Shea Duke Jackson. It's made it to Sandra Rose. It's made it to Fly Nubian Queen.
Absolutely. The Jasmine brand. It's made it to the show with Vivica Fox. I can't think of the Fox Soul.
Yes.
I've seen it just about every place you can imagine. Everywhere I go, I'm hearing people talk about it. It's made it to the Ricky Smiley morning show. Like everybody has something to say about it. So, honey, it is causing quite the stir.
Wow, I did not know that. Thank you so much, ladies, for sharing that with me. I had no idea about 75% of those things, those places that you all named. I really didn't know.
Absolutely. That's how big it is because, yeah, there's a lot of, dissenting rhetoric as it relates to the petition. And then I've seen some people supporting it. So I think there are some mixed views as it relates to this petition. So we're going to go ahead and get into it. Danny, you want to kick it off or you want me to?
You can, but I do want to cite the last I checked, which was very late last night. The petition was up to 14,172 signatures.
Wow.
So, yeah, just wanted to let you guys know that.
Thank you for those statistics because the very first video that I watched on the petition, I think, maybe that was Goldie's video. There was a video that I watched early on regarding the petition, and it was citing that it was at like 1,500, and then the next one that I saw was citing that it was at like 5,000. So, with that being said, it is obvious that the buzz around the petition is creating, more people flocking to it and signing the petition as well. So let's just start with the preliminary information relating to the petition. I'm going to ask the obvious question, Goldie, and I know you've talked about this extensively on your channel, and we will be dropping your link to your channel. And I'm going to ask the mods if you don't mind sharing Goldie's link because she does have her own channel, the Goldie Jones channel. But I want to know, like, what was your reason for creating this petition? Just plain and simple.
Thank you so much, Concrete. Can you hear me? I told y'all that I got my babies together, and here he is, right?
He like, that's what you thought, Mama. We can hear you fine.
Okay. So I operate a small space on a social media platform where I interact with about 15 to 1,600 ladies, kind of like on a daily basis or so. And we talk about relationships and dating and leveling up and, all of the girly things, right? Makeup, clothes, hair, all of that stuff. And so many of the girls had, begun sharing experiences from recent dating, interactions that they've had with men on the phone and in person. And one thing rang true with most of those experiences that these ladies were sharing is that there was this surgence of like this red pill, quote unquote, ideology that was kind of spilling over into real life. I know that the YouTube space is a little more advanced than what's happening in day-to-day life. So I was really surprised to hear that these disastrous dates were, with these guys were happening with men that belong to the red pill community. And after listening further and hearing more about those experiences, they also followed Kevin Samuels. That was like the common theme between all of them. I had those conversations with women who had been on dates with guys and how odd those experiences were, but then even shared more conversations with other women about how their self-esteem had been impacted and just their view of themselves and self-worth and confidence had been impacted by opinions that were kind of floating around in the space, about rating yourself, what they felt they were eligible for in life because of how they looked, or if they had an education or not, or if they had children or not, or just so many different things. And I felt so bad for these ladies who felt trapped in the opinions of others and a community that most women don't know about, so I decided to create this little petition because I was saying to myself and to the ladies, if something is going on and you don't agree with it, or you feel like it's making you feel endangered, or you're feeling less safe because of these opinions that are going around, you can do something about it. It doesn't mean that that those opinions will go away. But you can make your opinion known too about how you're being impacted by the actions and words of other people, and how your daily life is being affected by that. So I created the petition and shared it to my group, and I got about 200 signatures, and I just forgot about it. I didn't share it on my public Facebook page. I didn't share it in many other spaces outside of that little area that I was speaking to ladies in. And about 2.5 months after I created that petition, I got an email from a young lady by the name of Cassandra, and she had shared the petition on her platform. And just, I think a day after she shared that, she sent me the email, I started getting all of these crazy emails and comments on old videos, because I really hadn't been active on my YouTube channel, and inboxes on Instagram and Facebook from all these strangers regarding the petition, and that kind of brought us to where we are now.
Wow, thank you for all the background. Yeah, very interesting, and thank you for keep getting us up to speed as it relates to how it started and how we end up here. I'm sorry, go ahead, Dan.
Right. So Goldie, we do have a couple of tough questions. We wanted to conduct a fair interview, but we definitely wanted to hear it from your side. But I went through quite a few online communities to see what people were saying in regards about the petition. A lot of people said you did this for a clout chase. You did this to blow your channel up. What do you say in regards to that?
To be honest, I created the YouTube channel that I had. Y'all know my baby on my lap now. I created the YouTube channel that I had just to kind of speak to that small group of women that I told you that I work with every day. Okay, baby. So I really had no plans for that channel to like be big or kind of take off. It was just something extra to do with those women. So the idea of clout chasing and wanting to get attention, like, that's kind of not me. I really like playing the background. I don't like being out in the public, kind of. So I'm really surprised, to be honest, about how I've handled things so far, because I really don't like the attention, and I really don't like, I just really don't like the attention. But once the petition kind of took off, I had to speak a little bit more. So I've been speaking more, but that was never really my goal.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. I have to say, basically, based off of like our interactions with you, I can personally say that I didn't see you as like an attention seeker. So thank you for giving your perspective as it relates to any underlying reason that you might have done this. I know we have a few super chats, so we'll pause for just a second to read those, and then I have a follow-up question for you.
Well, what I was going to do about the super chats, I was just going to give everybody a shout out in the chat, so we won't be disruptive to the interview process. A lot of the stuff that they have in their super chats, we do have those in our questions already. So yeah, we'll
highlight them, and then we will
thank you in the chat. So we're not trying to be rude.
We just have a lot of questions.
Yes. So we want to keep the flow of the interview going. But shout out to Gabe A. Thank you for your super chat. We got you covered. Gotcha.
Absolutely. I do want to say, I know, like, basically listening to what you initially explained regarding your reasoning behind the petition is very admirable. But I want to know that when we talk about, Black men, and just speaking of this space, which myself and Danny, we've been in this space for, several years and just kind of become familiar with the rhetoric of the space, as well as a lot of the men that are within this space. I want to know, like, you were talking about essentially empathizing with those women who you've connected with through your social media, but do Black men not have the right to ensure that their voices are also heard by way of Black male media? And I know that Kevin has now gone mainstream, which gives Black men an even larger voice as it relates to what they deal with in the day-to-day dating world. But in your opinion, do you not feel that they also have a right to ensure that their voice and their experiences are heard, on a large platform?
Yeah, I think it's important that everyone is given space to speak, of course. I agree with that. I think that there is a slight misunderstanding regarding freedom of speech and what that actually is, what it entails, and the responsibility that we must show to each other in order to be afforded that right. When we have freedom of speech, it's really easy to cross the line into hate speech. And that's kind of, what there's a few things, I'll go back to those things, to the petition, but there's a few things that kind of underlay my decision to create the petition. But when that speech becomes negative, like I said, compels or makes women feel unsafe, or, it's promoting, negativity, violence, nastiness, abuse against women, and especially women of a particular demographic, then that's when I think we need to step back and take an honest and objective look at what's actually being said, and why we support it, and, if we can really think about the people that not only are impacted, the demographic that is impacted by that speech, but the hearers and doers of that speech. I really think that that there's a fine line, and we have a responsibility to ourselves and to others to be honest about the reality of that.
Well, do you agree with any of Kevin Samuel's talking points?
Yeah, I have been on panels with you ladies before, and we've spoken specifically about Kevin. Y'all know that I liked Kevin then. I still like him now. And I listen to his videos, his streams a lot. They're very entertaining, and I do take away some beneficial information from most of them. But
you're saying current day, you still watch Kevin?
Yeah, I watched Kevin not too long ago.
Really?
I don't watch him as much as I used to, but I'm sub to Kevin, and I've seen him in the last 2 weeks or so. I've seen him in the last 2 weeks or so on the stream. I can't remember which one, but yeah. I mean, I'm not against to listening to him, and I'm not against to listening to opposing perspectives. So. Yeah.
Okay.
And I do agree with some things he has said, but when we get into other things I don't agree with. But that doesn't mean that I have to hate him or not like him or think he's scum of the earth. It just means that I don't agree. And I think that those statements, when internalized by the wrong people, can really be destructive.
So although you think there's some truth to you agree with some of the things that he says, is it that, and I'm just asking this as a clarifying question before I ask my question. So although you agree with some of the things that he says, is it that you think that his message is somehow detrimental to women? Just for clarity.
Yeah, I think that. Okay, baby. I think that. Baby. Okay. I think that elements of his message can be destructive to a certain demographic, and I'm talking specifically Black women. I think that Black women kind of get the most criticism from him and his followers, and yeah, I think that, women in general can benefit from some of the things he says, but I think that elements of his message can really be destructive when aimed towards Black American women in particular.
Thank you. That I find that interesting, and I was going to ask another question, but now I want to go in a different direction. So I find that interesting that you find that elements of his message can be destructive or detrimental to African American women, whereas the premise, I guess, of like a lot of the rhetoric in this space is to hold women accountable. So I want to know what your thoughts are about Black women being held accountable, and if the men, like in your personal circle, if you see examples of men, within your own life holding Black women accountable. So like, what are your thoughts about his message, not necessarily being of detriment, but kind of like holding a mirror up to Black women to say, this is the mess that you've created as a result of your actions, and you need to be held accountable for said actions. I'm not sure. Is that clear, or do you need me to clarify what I'm asking?
You're asking me, how do I feel about Kevin in particular, but men holding women accountable for their actions?
Yeah.
Correct?
Essentially, yes, absolutely.
Okay, and then you also spoke about men in my everyday life and kind of
do you see those examples? Right.
Okay, yeah, I think that from my perspective, the man is the leader, like he's in charge, right? Like it starts with him and it kind of ends with him. I think that women can and should, respectfully, state what it is that they want and need from situations or interactions with men. But I think that men are ultimately, quote unquote, in charge. Okay. With that being in charge, there comes a huge responsibility. A lot of times we talk about submission, women being submissive to men, but with that, men have a huge responsibility in creating the environment for the woman to be submissive and to feel safe enough to kind of turn her, quote unquote, power or safety over to the man and trust that he will honor that, So when it comes to men holding women accountable, I definitely think that's a thing. Men have held me accountable in my real life. I look to men to hold me accountable in my real life. It's just that I think that the sentiment that I hear in the community that Kevin kind of belongs to or comes from is unbalanced in a way. I think that they describe the worst of us, the most egregious of us, ladies, and then compare all women along that spectrum. And I think that's where the problem comes in at. We have some women that haven't had positive interactions with men or don't have men in their immediate circles, and therefore might not know how to interact with the man respectfully or something like that. But then we have those women who have positive and healthy relationships with men and more better understand men, and are able to relate to them in a more respectful way. But these men focus heavily on those women who have not learned or have not been taught kind of the differences between a man and a woman and how healthy communication is fostered. So I think that that's how the perspective, Kevin's perspective, coming from the community that he comes from and all of that, is unbalanced, and it paints a whole demographic as one thing when that's really not our reality.
Thank you, Goldie, for answering the question. Danny, it's on you. I just want to remind the mods, if they could please, if you guys could please drop Goldie's link throughout the stream, if you don't mind dropping the link to Goldie's channel during the interview.
Can I also say thank you for sharing my channel link. My channel is primarily for women. I don't mind the guys coming over because it does encourage healthy dialogue, a balanced conversation. But the last few days I've been talking more about men, but my message is really for women.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Excuse me. Goldie, would you credit women in their participation for Kevin Samuel's channel's acceleration to start on? Like, what about the thousands of women that actually support his message?
Good question.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, I do think that women play a big part of it. But to be honest, Kevin comes from a really strong community anyway. So as long as the conversation was about women, I think that Kevin would have been just as popular either way. But yeah, I think that women have been integral in his success and really helped to take him to the next level. I think that it's not so much as just the women being there and kind of calling into the show and everything. I think that is how the women are treated that has really made his show and his popularity what it is. He is kind of seen as like this hard-nosed guy that doesn't take any mess from the women and is gonna check them and hold them accountable and tell them about themselves. So I think that a lot of guys and even a lot of women who are entertained by that tune in for that type of thing, and that has increased his popularity significantly.
So what would you say in regards to them participating? Like, if they know Kevin Samuels pretty much conduct the same types of interview styles with women just about every time he goes live. And the women are rushing to get up there to be seen, to be heard, to get his advice. What would you say to them if they're the ones participating?
What I would say is that, I understand why these women are coming to him, because he is a man, he is an older man, and he seemingly is knowledgeable about what it is that he speaks about. And aside from that, like I mentioned earlier, not a lot of women have, positive relationships with quote unquote more quality guys that they can kind of talk to and kind of get some answers from. So in theory, I understand why they are going to his channel and why they are asking him questions. I do think that women they could be better served by really talking to a true professional. Not to say that Kevin isn't a professional, but a licensed therapist, a counselor, a psychologist, or something like that, to help them understand the truly underlying issues. Because once we get past the "you chose a bum" or "you chose a deadbeat dad," or whatever those criticisms are, or you have a bad attitude, the woman really needs to begin to explore the root of those things. Why is my attitude the way it is? Why am I making the choices that I'm making in men? And I don't think that sorry, baby. I don't think that I have seen the conversation on Kevin's streams explored to that degree. So I think that ultimately the women are looking for answers.
Wait a minute, Goldie. You said you don't think it's been explored to that degree. I want you to clarify that for us.
I think she's meaning going deeper. Were you saying going deeper?
Yeah, on the streams, Kevin really, from what I've seen, I haven't seen all of his millions of streams, right? But from the ones that I have seen, there are, good conversations about the relationship in general, but not really not really delving deeper into the woman's pathology, the trauma that she might be working from, the abuse that she might have experienced that caused her to see things or make decisions the way that she has. It's kind of difficult to make that type of assessment, on the type of format that Kevin has. That's why professional therapists, licensed therapists, and counselors and all of that stuff are who they are, and they are available to us because, they have the ability to kind of get down to the root of it. And so I feel that, on the surface, we talk about the relationships and the failures of those relationships. But if you really want to get to the root, we need to begin to think more about therapy and actually pursue therapy and, really sort those things out in a meaningful way, in a way that can bring real solution to your now and to your later, more so than just talking about the surface issues.
Okay.
Thank you for
Now,
that, Goldie.
just one last thing, Concrete.
Go ahead.
His detractors are definitely going to tell you that he has suggested therapy for a lot of women that have come through his show. So that's going to be a thing that everybody's going to say, well, Kevin does suggest therapy for a lot of women. Do you have any response to that?
Yeah, I've heard him suggest therapy a lot, and that's one thing that I appreciate. The comments that compelled me to make the petition, I was surprised that he didn't speak to therapy or providing other alternatives outside of what he considered to be the solution to the issue that they were considering, or talking about. But yeah, to be honest, I think a lot of us women who call into his show know that we need therapy, right? We know that therapy is available to us. We know that therapy exists. I used to work in, a place that had a lot of resources available to women for many different things, so even those of us who are more quote unquote disadvantaged know that these resources are available, yet, we still have a conversation with someone who's going to point us back to where we know we should have been all along, So I'm not saying that he doesn't advocate for therapy. I've heard it before. And I understand that that is a position that he does take. However, I believe that a lot of the women who call in already know that they need to be seeing, a licensed therapist or counselor or something.
I think that, thank you, Goldie, for your in-depth answer to Danny's questions. I do think that, namely Kevin is for entertainment. So of course he is not going to, dig deeper. He's not going to psychoanalyze. He does not have the education to the education experience to kind of psychoanalyze and go deeper with the women who call his show. And of course, that's also not his purpose, nor do I believe that that is his specific mission. When we talk, if we talk about, and not to make the comparison, but if we talk about like Wendy Williams, and she is sort of gossip, tabloid, she is, critiquing people's lives, their relationships, what they do in their everyday life. And, she's of course not going deeper. She is talking about very surface level things. But my question, so that was just in response to what you shared, but my question is, do you find the likes of maybe a Cynthia G or women who would be alleged to speak ill of Black men as detrimental to Black men as you find Kevin's rhetoric to be a detriment to Black women?
I listen, like I said earlier, I listen to a variety of opinions, and I'm very familiar with Cynthia G. And, there's a stark contrast between Cynthia G and Kevin. Cynthia speaks from what I've seen about, things that have taken place in our community, things that are documented in news articles or in law proceedings or, just things that you can find along the internet and news media. Whereas Kevin kind of comes from, I don't want to say a more anecdotal space because he does state statistics for some things, but kind of like life's experiences. And usually those experiences are really negative, So yeah, I think that guys might not like to hear some things that Cynthia says, but they are, documented occurrences, things that took place and kind of are what they are. I understand, and from this whole petition thing blowing up, I understand that guys don't like to hear the reality of the world that we're living in today and their role in it, and kind of how they have allowed things to become what they are. But that's just what it is.
Yeah, I think I have to say really quickly, and I just have a part two to the question. Really quick. Now I don't listen to Cynthia G regularly. I have listened to her in the past, a few of her shows, and or heard her on other people's panels that I did listen to very heavily. And I do hear her generalize. I hear her generalize, and she's not necessarily speaking about like specific things that are that are occurring in the community. She does generalize Black men a lot. So I just wanted to rebut your statement and kind of put that out there because, in all honesty, yeah, I've heard those generalizations a number of times from her. But I wanted to know, like, what you think about like censorship, because I know in my own personal opinion, censorship can be pretty dangerous when we talk about, if you think about like even, YouTube censoring, people who are subscribed to the flat earther theory or anti-vax people, or, like typically, and not necessarily, I'm not a flat earther, don't necessarily believe that, but like there is something that you don't want other people to hear when you want to censor something, and a lot of people believe that you're wanting to censor it because there's truth in it and it could shed a negative light on said group. And I want to know your thoughts on that. If you do believe that censorship is dangerous, if you think that there are certain situations where censorship is okay, just I guess your general thoughts on censorship.
Okay. First, I want to go back to the comment about Cynthia G. Now, mind you, I don't think she knows who I am, right? I've listened to her, but like,
I think she know who you is now, child. I think she know.
Yeah, but I've listened to her, but like I've never conversed with her. Okay, but let's say, for example, there is a statistic where I think Kevin has mentioned this specifically, that there is a high number of quote unquote baby mamas, right, in our community, women, single mother women, and I think that statistic is around 72% or something like that. Kevin says that these women basically are, giving birth to children out of wedlock. Okay. And on the flip side, when Cynthia speaks about the reality as she sees it, using that same 72%, she can come to a conclusion. I haven't heard this specifically. I don't want to try to quote anybody specifically, neither Kevin nor Cynthia, but she can say that basically there's a 72% chance that if you are, sexually involved with the Black guy and you do get pregnant, there's a 72% chance that you will end up being a single mother. And I don't think that is, I don't think that that's a misrepresentation. It might not feel good to hear that said out loud, but the reality is that it is what it is. Kevin can say that the women are 72% responsible for it, and then on the flip side, Cynthia can also say that the men are 72% responsible for it.
That's
So
a skewed statistic anyway. It's like when you
yeah.
dive deeper into that statistic, it's a common talking point, but the statistic is skewed because it would make you believe that 72% of Black women are having babies and they're single. Number one, it's not 72% of Black women, it's 72% of the Black babies. Now, Black babies also includes babies that are biracial, so they would be included in that. And in addition, that means single, like unmarried, but that does not mean you're a single mother. Maybe you're partnered, you have a long-term relationship with someone. So I hate that statistic, and I understand what you're saying regarding how the statistic can be presented on both sides.
Yeah, because either way, even if it were a non-Black mom, it's still, the result of a child being created with a Black man, so
Right.
I think that, people are kind of mischaracterizing some of the things that Cynthia is saying. That's just my statement there. Now, when we talk about censorship, I don't really see the petition as quote unquote censorship. I see that it is a a rebuttal or a response to some really dangerous rhetoric that has been spewed by Kevin and the community that he belongs to. I see Kevin as kind of the leader of that community, and that community has, like I said, permeated almost every facet of daily life for all of us. So I just see it as, a way to kind of resolve the threat as it relates and is targeted to that specific demographic. I do think that there is I know that there's a right to freedom of speech, and I'm not contesting that. However, when that right infringes on another demographic safety, then we really have to be honest about what it is. We really have to be honest about the fact that that there is a responsibility from all of us to each other when we talk about freedom of speech and the reality that censorship occurs when your speech makes others unsafe.
Okay. And I'm glad you said that, because that's the next area that I wanted to go in. In your petition, you specifically said acts of violence, sexually predatory behavior, and even death has been documented stemming from Mr. Samuels and his community of followers has spewed rhetoric in the last 12 months. Will you cite any sources from that? Because I when I read that, I was like, okay, now, to me, if a person is talking rough to me or like saying something that I don't like, I don't consider that violence. But now, if I do go on a panel and I'm having a discussion and people are up there calling me all kind of bitches and hoes, I still wouldn't consider that violence. I would consider that bad language. But I wanted you to clarify the sexually predatory behavior, especially the death part that you said stem from Kevin Samuels and his followers.
Yeah, there is a statistic. I think I would consider it to be a statistic where a Black woman is killed every 19 hours, I think it is. As of this day, I think, or this time in 2021, more than 800 women have been killed. 800 Black women have been killed by their intimate partner. And I have to go back into the statistics, but a significant number of those who have committed those crimes are Black men. I can't give you a specific name at this time, but I can follow up with you if that's something that I need to do. But I think that uh, the the conversation, the breeding ground is what is contributing to all of that. When we speak of the threats of violence, I've heard Kevin say himself um, on his streams, he'll say something like, well, if he could knock your teeth out your mouth or rearrange the furniture in your mouth, would you do the same things? And, maybe Kevin wouldn't consider, actually knocking somebody's teeth out their mouth or rearranging the furniture in their mouth. But one of his, millions of subscribers that hear him might actually consider that, and it may never be revealed that, um, you know, that a person heard them say that and thought that that could be a viable option. So when we speak about the deaths of women, I mean, the fantasies of death to women, there was a conversation. There was a conversation. I don't know if it was after the average at best thing. But there was a conversation in the community for a little while about how women weren't needed. Like men could exist without women ever, being here, unless they wanted to use us for procreation. They wouldn't need us unless they wanted to create a child. They could perfectly exist well without any woman ever being present, unless they needed to create a child or whatever. So, that was a full conversation that took place for, you know, quite a few of his streams where he, created this world, this fictitious world where women didn't exist, and made sure to drive the point home that we didn't need women in this world to exist, or men didn't need women in this world to exist.
Did that answer your question, Danny?
I would say that it answered some of it, because I really wanted to hear, like when you say that somebody has kind of, it's almost like yelling fire in a movie theater. Um, when you say stuff like a person has been a part of a community that's contributed to death, then I would ask, okay, in the last year, we've had people losing their jobs. We've had the coronavirus. We've had this pandemic has been really, really detrimental to a lot of people. People being out of work. Spouses, husbands, and wives have really had to be with each other because a lot of people have been working from home. And so, to me, there would be other factors that would contribute to a lot of the behaviors as opposed to one man's rhetoric. And that's kind of where my thought process went when I thought about it. So it kind of answered my question a little bit, but I would have wanted to hear like specific statistics to where you would say, okay, some of his rhetoric has led to the death of Black women.
So you're specifically talking about the portion of your question relating to people, Black women, their lives being in danger, or them like the violence causing death. So I think she answered the part
or
about
even
the other part of the question.
And then the other thing was like the sexually predatory behavior. Would you give us some clarification about that?
Yeah. So when we talk about the last 12 months, we all kind of have been like in a really stressful situation, right? It's like something that was like unforeseen, and like none of us have really, experienced anything like this before. And, some of us, well, most of us were forced to spend more time in a confined environment like a home than we previously ever had been forced to. And we have to be honest and say that is when Kevin really really took off. There was he already had momentum going into the pandemic and everything, but the last year and a half kind of gave more time to that message to kind of permeate and sink in and everything. So yeah, I think that while we have seen the violence on the rise in the last year or so, we have to also acknowledge that the messaging got stronger and louder and more present within the last year or so as well. When I speak in terms of the sexual predatory behavior, um, Kevin does represent a community, and we know um, that he represents that community, right? And part of Kevin's advice is for older men, 50-year-old men, to pursue 20-year-old women or 25-year-old women, really young women that don't know much about life, haven't lived, much life. And these guys know that these women don't know much, haven't experienced much, and they know that they are far, far, far advanced. As it relates to this woman's cognitive reasoning ability and understanding of how the world, quote unquote, works, and how he does, right? So when we think about the promotion of older men, 50-year-old men dating very young women, I consider that to be predatory in nature, because there are really quality women that are closer to their age range, available and single, and interested in marriage. And to intentionally go after really young, inexperienced women leads me to see that as somewhat predatory.
I have a question for you, Goldie. And
Mm-hmm.
this was not my original question, but
Mm-hmm.
just to piggyback off of what you just said, do you find it equally as predatory when young women are going after old men for their pockets, like for the sugar babies? Do
Good
you find
question.
them as predatory as well?
Um, you know, I never really thought about that, because a woman, a young woman who is pursuing an older woman for money and stuff, kind of is more advanced than a younger woman who is just, minding her business, living her little 20-year-old life, and is approached by a man who has the resources and everything to kind of get her attention. So I think a lot of times from what I've seen since this petition has come out, um, guys, kind of put the shoe on the other foot, quote unquote, and ask if it would be the same thing if a woman did X, Y, and Z. But that's not really what is not really what the focus of the conversation is on, or really the reality of the conversation. The reality is those young women who pursue older men for money are more advanced. They've seen more, they've experienced more, and even those women, as much as experienced as they are, still um, um, can be taken advantage of by that older man. So whether she be
And
very
I agree. It's a different, but the reason that I asked the questions is because I guess knowing this space, they want to be able to examine things from the other side too, in order to determine if they feel if someone is being hypocritical. So that's the reason that I asked that question, and I understand your response. I think that there are, when we think about just giving an example that everyone can pull from. What's his name? J. Alexander Smith and Anna Nicole. Like, there are women who are literally trolling to take advantage of men who and it's because these women know the game. And there are some men that are unassuming. When we talk about some of these older men, they're unassuming. They don't know the game. They, of course, don't mind. They want a trophy. They don't mind spending and splurging on you. But these women are are like well equipped with, you know, the knowledge of how to get a man to break bread, how to, you know, take a man for everything he has. So, you know, there are women that just have these ulterior motives, and they are leading with those ulterior motives in order to take advantage of older men too. But so I just wanted to examine it from the other side, because I know this space and kind of how they think, and, you know, they want to know if you're fair and impartial on both sides. So that's kind of where some of the questions are coming from.
But you know, Jay Alexander and Kevin's audience are kind of two different kinds of men, right?
No, yeah. That's what I'm saying. I was just and I just gave a broad example that everyone like understood. So I talked about Anna Nicole, because she was like, that was her shtick. But I understand that there is a complete separation of the two, but I just wanted to, my question was to examine it from the other side.
Now, I was familiar with Anna Nicole back in the day. I was much younger. So again, I might not have quote unquote known the ways of the world during that time. And maybe seen that she like was pursuing him specifically for money. What I saw was a really, really old man. I mean, like 70 or 80 years old. He was old as ever. And they probably connected through their social circles, right? Because she was a model and celebrity and stuff. So like they probably were able, I don't know for sure, able to connect in their social circles. Whereas in the community that Kevin comes from and the audience of men that he speaks to, these men are intentionally stacking resources or finding way to gain, income, resources and everything, and then pursuing younger, impoverished, women who want a better life. They talk about pursuing women of other countries, that are third world countries. These women are dirt poor, they advocate for getting your resources up and then going and, getting one of those women just because, that woman is young and, he kind of can run circles around her, so I kind of feel that that's where the predatory behavior comes from.
And I understand that. And I don't want to focus, on Anna Nicole Smith solely. I just thought of the first example that popped in my head. But I do think by the time they met, that her Playboy career and acting was like all well over. I do believe that she was like seeking out someone who was fortunate to take care of her, which could also be deemed as predatory. But, I understand where you're going. And I think that you're very good at kind of highlighting the specifics as it relates to why you've concluded what you've concluded. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I understand too. Thank you.
Okay. My next question is, do you think that women are complaining so much about Kevin Samuels' rhetoric is because it exposes a lot of their bad behavior to a broad spectrum, unlike before? At one point, women were on social media, not social media, but out in the public, basically, the rhetoric was niggas ain't shit, niggas ain't gonna be shit, they deadbeats, they this, they're that. Now we have a generation where I'm not gonna say it's necessarily equal, but we have a generation of bonnet wearers, slipper wearers, pajama wearers. Whole culture is prevalent in our community. Would you say that women complain so much because he exposes a lot of that type of behavior?
No, because again, like I mentioned earlier, I believe that those bonnet wearers and I can't remember the other ways that you describe those ladies. I think that that's, a small percentage of, who Black American women are, wholly, right? I think that, the bonnet wearers, just like the niggas ain't shit group, kind of get a lot of attention, and we somehow think that we all fall into either of those categories, and that's not true on either side. So I don't think that women have criticism against Kevin because of though that particular percentage of women, or that particular percentage of Black women are being exposed, I think that women have criticism of Kevin because he's just wrong in some things. I think that his view is skewed and unbalanced in many ways as it relates to Black American women in general.
What do you feel like? What do you feel like he's getting wrong for the most part?
There was a conversation where he said that Black women were ugly, that we were the least attractive women out of all of the other women. And that's just categorically like false. Like, there was no real reason for him to attack Black women in that way. And not only did he send a public message saying that he, as a representative of hypothetically, 500,000 Black men, I'll say half of his million subscribers, felt that Black women were the least attractive. He also sent a message out to other races of men that our own men felt that we were unattractive, and encouraged them, I think, vicariously to also see Black women as being the least attractive or unwanted or undesirable. I think that with a lot of the statements that he makes, from his individual perspective, he's speaking as a spokesperson for Black men, and in comments, Black men will tell you that he's saying the things that they've always wanted to say. He is, really saying some things from what I consider to be his individual perspective, but which might really be the Black men's collective perspective, that are, opinion and really just untrue, So, and then, like, when we talk about the Black woman being more overweight than other women, I was listening to a YouTuber not too long ago. I won't name her, but she went through the David's Bridal website, okay? And she clicked on different styles of dresses and the sizes that were available for these dresses, and found that most of these dresses were available in sizes above 18, okay? They even had sizes like 24 available in these wedding dresses. And then she went back to relate those dresses being available in those particular sizes to the numbers that Black women are actually being married, right? And the numbers where white women and women of other races are being married, and found that, the majority of Black women couldn't be the ones buying those larger size dresses, right? That because we aren't getting married as much as those other women, So to just say that we're the most unattractive, the heaviest, the most overweight or unhealthiest, it's just a lot of opinion that comes off as fact, and it really, for lack of a better term, attacks the Black woman as a whole. And I think that's why a lot of Black women don't really appreciate a lot of Kevin's rhetoric.
So do you reject the it's not the CDC, but the Department of Health, their statistics on weight that show that Black women are more overweight than other groups?
Do I reject the notion that Black women are more overweight than
other like there are statistics that they do, and I'm going to try to find it real quick, and if and so I can drop it in the chat. But I've seen the statistics a number of times. It's the Department of Public Health, and like when they do their statistics, it shows that Black women are percentage-wise, are more likely to be overweight than other groups.
I think that, historically, I guess I'll say, we have, as Black women, carried more weight than other women. And we know that we're shapelier than other women, just as a general body type and all of that. But I don't think that that's necessarily quote unquote overweight. I guess if you want to follow a BMI scale for all races of women, then Black women can be considered to be the heaviest. But from what I have seen, and I haven't studied this in any type of statistical research or anything, but for example, the frame of an Asian woman is significantly smaller than the frame of a white woman or a Latino woman. So to consider those white women or Latino women overweight as it relates to Asian women who are much shorter and much smaller in stature, it's kind of misleading. I understand how it could appear to be correct because numbers are what they are. But when you look at the body type and structure and, that whole thing, I don't think that Black women are just obese out here or just significantly overweight as it relates to Latino women or white women. Now, if you want to compare them to, even Indian women, some Indian women, carry weight. If you want to compare a Black woman, her natural body, natural makeup to an Asian woman, then maybe so. We would be thinner and taller and heavier and all of that type of stuff. So.
And I accept what you're saying, but I pulled up like the minorityhealth.gov, and it shows that African American women are leading in, weight, and then there's Hispanic women, white women, and then Asian women. But I understand what you're saying. I think that I want to ask you a question, but I do think that some of what we get in this space is what I like to refer to as tough love. And it's really tough. And a lot of times it's hard for us to find the love in what the men in this space are saying. Yeah. But even when we talk about like our weight, it's hidden. But even when we talk about our weight, I absolutely know that I need to lose weight. I am consciously and actively, on diet program and working out and doing all the things. But I when I just look around me, even if I try to look at nuanced situations in my own everyday life, I know that we don't eat the healthiest. I do see more Black women that are focused on their weight, and so many Black women work out, Black women keto, Black women, getting healthy groups and part of, so many different social groups where Black women are encouraging one another. And I'm telling you, Black women like shedding pounds, and a lot of this is natural. Some of it is surgery, but so I do think that Black women are more aware and more conscious of it. But I think sometimes like hearing the truth, even though it's not sugar-coated, even though it's not, music to our ears, is beneficial to us. It lights a fire under us, especially as Black people. Like, I feel like as Black people, we're almost conditioned to, like, if something isn't harsh, it doesn't impact us in a way that it exacts change. So I think that some of what the men in this space say is beneficial. If you can apply logic and remove your emotions out of this, and I'm just speaking generally, when I say you, not you personally, but if you can apply logic and remove your emotions out of it, and this comes from a person that is extremely emotional, so it took me some time to be able to just kind of accept what the men in this space say, because it was not wasn't covered in cotton candy. So I just wanted to say that. But I do have a question for you.
Can I respond?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay, so there's this lady, I just found her on Instagram, and she goes by the handle of the Black Vegan. Okay, I told you guys that I have this little space, and I made a post about something that this lady was wearing, and did more research on her and found that she is a vegan. She has a vegan cookbook. Her name is The Black Vegan. I think that is it. It's The Black Vegan. This lady's body, do you hear me, is banging. Okay, I mean, she is voluptuous in all the right places, and you can tell that she is absolutely health conscious. She seems to probably be between 5'9" and 5'11", so she appears to be a taller girl. I don't know her, but she appears to be a taller lady. But she is very health conscious, and so much so that she's created a cookbook to help other women, Black women or women in general, be more health conscious. But she still has the curves that we've come to associate with Black women. And, so I don't think that curves or more weight on a Black woman has a direct correlation to being unhealthy. And I think when we listen to some of the rhetoric in the community and the space, we hear that as a criticism where it could just be misguided or misdirected. And when we talk about why women, some Black women feel the way they feel about things that are said in the community and in the space, that's why. Just because she has some butt and hips and this lady has all of it. Okay. I mean, I hope to get some of that when, I hope to shape this body up in the next couple months like she has hers. But, just because we have those hips and that butt and, these breasts and everything doesn't mean that we are unhealthy,
No,
and
I
then
agree with
another thing that I wanted to speak about was the aspect of tough love that you mentioned. There's this belief that I have, okay, that women in general, but Black women specifically, don't really know how to identify abuse. And maybe Black men in particular might not even know what abuse is. But when we speak about that, or ways that they could be exhibiting abusive behavior, the Black men. When we speak of this quote unquote tough love in these online communities, what's actually happening is that we are being socially abused. And I did a video on my channel where I said that Black women are so used to dysfunctional relationships that we don't know when we're being abused, and we don't know how to identify abuse. And we went into this idea of social abuse, and social abuse is, saying,
I caught some of that video too. So and you
really
highlighted the definition.
really nasty things, making other people to kind of see you as less than, or chipping away at your reputation, so many different things. So when we speak of this thought of tough love, or as the guys would say it, holding you accountable, what's actually happening is that Black women in particular are being socially abused in these online spaces. And maybe the guys aren't aware that that's what they're doing.
I want to, because I definitely want to respond, and I still have to ask my question too.
Okay.
But yeah, that's what she's saying. Oh yeah. Let me just say this really quickly, Danny, and I'll let you chime in before I ask my question because I know you want to respond to it. I understand what you're saying, but I think that I have enough emotional intelligence to, me personally, be able to distinguish. I know some women may not be able to. I think that there is a difference between giving tough love and social abuse, emotional abuse, psychological abuse. And I have seen men in this space that do engage in acts that would fall under that the category of abuse. Not most of the men, to be completely honest. I've seen some men at one point in time, I would say like a guy Nutso, Keith Lamont at one point in time, some of the things that he would do. But I think that to say to a woman that you are overweight, even to use the term fat, that may not be pleasing to our ears, but that does not constitute abuse. Saying all these fat Black bitchs like that's different. So I do think that there is we have to distinguish between something that may not be pleasant to hear, and it could be constituted as tough love because I'm saying something to you that is not pleasant to hear, but it's the truth. And I'm saying it in love. I want my Black women to do better. And I'm saying this as a woman who is engaged to a man who was, Muslim for the majority of his life. He doesn't sugarcoat anything. like at all whatsoever. He's very direct, very assertive. But I know when he tells me, babe, okay, we got to get back to working out, or, we need to do, eat healthier or whatever, that it's said in love, that it's not abusive, that, he is concerned. He doesn't want me to have any of these, debilitating diseases that Black people are known to catch or be diagnosed with. That he's, actively saying, let's go work out together, that he buys me workout equipment, and that he wants me to remain active because he wants me around as long as possible. Mm-hmm. And in the same way that some of the men in this space want women in the community to not be to be able to hear the truth, to be able to hear the truth without them having to sugarcoat it. So I understand what you're saying, and I do think that there's a demographic of women who don't know the difference, but there is a difference between tough love and social or emotional or psychological abuse. That's my
I think that where the issue comes in at is those fat Black B comments and stuff that you mentioned that are found in all my comment sections under my video. Okay? Those comments are there. Y'all go look at them, okay? Because I haven't erased anything. But it's that behavior goes unchecked and is supported in the community. Like, I really don't hear guys talking about maybe I have seen, to be honest, I've seen a few guys over the last couple of days, try to reason with other men or whatever. But most of those comments are, have gone unchecked, especially before the petition kind of came out and they got a chance to hear a woman's perspective, okay, on the things that have been being said. That behavior is supported and it goes unchecked, and it kind of is accepted as normal, and it's really abnormal. There is nothing loving or tough about that thing. It is specifically geared towards breaking the woman down. And when you talk about how your man spoke to you about, babe, let's go do this, let's do that, let's go work out, that's really not the comments, the guys in these spaces aren't really framing their criticisms in that way, right? We also know that Black men are, I don't have the statistic, maybe one of y'all do.
Yeah, but Black women, I think, are the largest group of overweight males too. So
yeah.
I think that's
Yeah. So when we talk about like social abuse and the criticism, to me, that's just another way where they can discredit the Black woman or continue to paint her as unattractive and unwanted. And a lot of times following those comments about us being fat or ugly, there's usually an accompanying comment about other women and how other women look better and are better than us. And even, Kevin recently has spoken about, races of other women and how they are, better than or more attractive than Black women. Just for an example, in the picture that I have here on my page, I've gotten so many comments about me wearing a stinking wig on my head, and all of these criticisms. I guess it's tough love to get us to stop wearing weave. But in that particular picture, I don't have on a wig. I love a wig and I wear wigs often. But in that picture, I don't have a wig. It's just a way to attack me or criticize me or, make me feel some kind of way about myself. And I think that a lot of the commentary in this community is geared towards making the woman feel low about herself. I think that their aim is to lower the collective esteem of Black women. And I have some thoughts as to why they are doing that. But I think that we have to be honest and really acknowledge that most of the comments aren't coming from a loving or constructive place. They really are wanting to attack and belittle women.
I will agree with you when you say most of them. Go ahead, Danny. I'll ask my question after you.
Okay, because what I was going to say, so if you go and listen to any of the divestment community's rhetoric about Black men, it's equal if not more damning than what the black manosphere or some of the black manosphere says about black women. And I feel like the rhetoric on from the divestment community is equally as divisive. Will you be going after any of their channels?
No, I think that I want to leave some space for men to, do what they want to do. Um, I think that this petition, my petitioner in particular, has kind of brought out the quote unquote petty in men, where they feel like they need to attack other content creators because of my petition, speaking of Kevin specifically. But there are many things that have contributed to Black men being seen the way that they are seen. Okay, I'm going to talk about divestment in 1 second. But there was, I'm not really watching the comments, but one of the comments that you guys flashed on the screen spoke about Black men being bashed in media for the past 30 years. Black men want to hold Black women accountable for their image and their presentation over the last 30 years by media and, other sources. But Black women haven't been responsible for those things. We don't have the power to dictate what media shows and how media kind of portrays the Black man. Now, the power that Black men have that I exercise myself is to stand up against big media and to really try to repair their own image. But instead of focusing on petitioning, for example, this more recent video with Lil Nas X and that whole thing, and how more Black men are being portrayed as homosexual and stuff like that, instead of attacking or creating a petition to address that, they want to talk about a community of women that really is no threat to them. Like the divestment community. I don't belong to the divestment community, but I follow a lot of their channels and I have listened to, a lot of their broadcasts and stuff. And I do not agree with everything they say, but those women are a drop in the bucket when we compare them to a Kevin Samuels or the media machine, So I think that Black men would be better served setting their sights on media and repairing their collective image, more so than focusing on, a YouTuber with a small audience, spewing some, really, negative comments. I'll agree that some of the divestors, kind of go overboard, but,
Honey,
I don't think that they are really the issue when it comes to their image.
with rhetoric like abort Black babies,
Yeah,
stop,
Black male
honey,
babies.
yes, ooh, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it can
toxic.
get really nasty, and I'm not saying that I condone any of that. Y'all know I love my babies, okay? I do have a son, and I'll have another son soon. Yes, I'm so excited,
Oh,
y'all.
well,
Oh my goodness, because I
That's
congratulations.
so
know that y'all
exciting. You better not be letting this internet stress you out and you carrying a
no,
baby.
no,
Oh,
I'm fine.
I
I'm
had
fine
no
because
clue.
I'm not working or
mm,
anything, and I'm happy that the conversation has begun. But as you ladies are mothers, you understand, how precious our babies are to us, and our sons are, just something else. Like the love of your little boy child is just crazy different from a girl. But some of those divestor communities can kind of, you know, go overboard. But I think that when in the beginning when I spoke about men being the leader and kind of setting the tone, you know, they tell me that I have bigger things to focus on. Like so many people have wondered why I haven't attacked white supremacy and racism and all of these types of things. And it's like they have space to, create some type of awareness around those things themselves. Like, I think that they have much more pressing things to focus on than what, you know, a divestment channel is talking about. Those divestment channels really aren't, you know, interested in like dating them, you know. So I think that Black men would be better served, you know, if they wanted to put some energy behind their collective image and reputation, or, you know, creating favorable conditions for the women that they are interested in dating and building a community with.
So I do have to say, to your point, although Black women are not responsible for, you know, how, well, although Black women are not in control of how the media portrays Black men, Black women have supported media that portrays Black men in a negative light, and Black women en masse have not stood up or, you know, joined Black men and said, you take the charge and we will be right there behind you to ensure that, you know, we are not in support of, and that we speak out against Black men being shown in a negative light in the media. But I want to know, I'm sorry, my phone just locked and I can't get to my question.
Can I just speak to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that we're placing a heavy burden on women in terms of expecting women to advocate for the Black man's reputation or his image being portrayed in media, when the Black man, first, the Black man himself isn't, you know, speaking about how he's portrayed in media. And aside from that, when we go back into the high preponderance of single mothers in our community, and the lack of marriage, and the lack of, you know, importance around family and legacy and all of that type of stuff, you know, we are expecting women to kind of support men that aren't returning that loyalty to us. Okay. And when we think about the rhetoric of, you know, these spaces and how they are, you know, publicly spewing what you would consider to be tough love, what I would consider to be social abuse against Black American women, it's like, how can you expect, you know, there to be a movement around your image when, you know, you're dropping the ball, you know, in our day-to-day life, you know? So
yeah. So, as it relates to that, a couple things. Number one, the men in this space are actually, that's a big focus as it relates to the rhetoric and sharing and promoting and them being proponents of Black male media. Is how they have been viewed for the last 30 years. Now, maybe the prior generation did not stand up and speak out against it, but the men in this space absolutely do. And I don't want to get it confused. I don't think that everything that comes from this space is tough love. I think that you have to, I've done a very good job of kind of creating a algorithm that I want to see on my timeline. I think that you have to tailor what you listen to what you enjoy and what feeds your soul. So I know that there are toxic content creators, and most of it is really not the content creators. It's really their audience from what I've seen. I know that there are people that are engaging in different types of abuse as it relates to Black women. So I'm not saying all of what you hear in this space. I'm largely talking about the people in my audience, because these are the channels that I frequent. So the people in my audience, they, for example, would say Black women are fat. Black women, typically they may say Black women are the most overweight group. That is a common talking point that we hear. To me, that's not social abuse. So that's what I'm differentiating from. I'm not saying that abuse doesn't happen in this space. I agree that there is emotional and psychological abuse that occurs in this space, because I have been the victim of it. So I'm not talking about all the folks in this space. I'm talking about the ones that I frequent their channels and I engage in conversation with.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah. They all in my comments, girl. And they'll tell me to kill myself today, and then tomorrow be sending me comments again. You know, tomorrow be sending me new comments, you know, asking.
Now, that's disgusting.
And I'm like, I'm supposed to be dead. Why are you still texting me? Because you.
Now, I would never say that that's tough love. Now, I'm not talking about stuff like that. Absolutely disgusting. And I'm not, you know, I wasn't privy to what you've experienced, but I have myself been called all out of my name, disgusting, unattractive, whatever. So I do think that there is an element. I guess I've tailored, what I see on my timeline or within my algorithm to what I enjoy listening to, and I don't see that regularly. But I do know that it happens,
Right.
so I don't want to dismiss what you're saying. So let me quickly ask my question so we can move on.
Damn, girl, you ain't asked no question yet.
Okay. No, you hear me? We going back and forth. So listen, I'm not about to deal with you. What I want to know is your concern, because I just talked about the divestment community, and basically they're a drop in the bucket. However, at one point in time, the manosphere was also looked at as a drop in the bucket. They were a small niche group of men that were spouting this rhetoric, and now Kevin has blown up, and as a result, a lot of the talking points, a lot of the mindset from this space is being shared on a larger stage. But is your concern that the bigger that the mindset of the men in this space gets, the let me how can I ask this?
I actually got that question too.
No, let me just go ahead. Because I was trying to figure out a way to ask it, because I just have typed out, what the actual subject, but not the question. Okay, so let me ask it this way. Is it not that there is, do you not believe that there's some truth in what is being shared, if there is this concern that his message is growing at such an alarming rate? Is it not that there's some truth in the shared experiences that men have? If it were not, or if you don't believe that there is truth, then how could there be a concern that there will be a continual growth of this mindset if other Black men who had no idea that Kevin existed or the manosphere existed will so quickly latch on to those talking points? Isn't it likely that it's because they've also experienced some of the same things regarding Black women?
Well, when it comes to those divestment channels, I am subscribed to a good number of them, and I do listen to their perspective, but I won't say that that I can identify with it, right? We spoke about, the aborting the Black babies statement and all of that stuff. And, I want all of my Black babies. You know what I'm saying? So, just because I listen to it doesn't mean that, I can identify with it. But when we speak about like their thoughts becoming more mainstream, one of the reasons why I feel that, there may be somewhat of a plateau, with Kevin's, platform, as we talk about true mainstream, like a Steve Harvey or something somebody else mentioned, TD Jakes, is that there is a promotion of there is a lot of negativity associated with his words, and we can get into what I consider to be the social abuse, or even the domestic discipline, domestic violence, abuse type rhetoric. Those things, are, I don't know about, being picked up mainstream. Even the promotion of interracial dating is another thing that I don't know, really about. So one thing that is surprising to me is the higher Kevin gets, the more he's promoting interracial dating, or dating women outside of the Black community. And even on the other side, they talk about dating men of other races. And, I say go where you're appreciated on either side, but I wonder, why is there not more focus and more conversation regarding, Black men doing the work and stepping it up to become better, just as there's this focus on Black women stepping it up and doing the work to become better. So, I just don't see, when it comes to the whole mainstream, you might have to ask your question again, but when it comes to the whole mainstream piece, I think that what's really happening is that there is a lot of individual perspective being spoken to a growing audience, and that individual perspective is
that kind of hits on what I was trying to ask. Like I was asking, doesn't it seem as though there's some validity to his message for it to grow at such an alarming rate? Isn't it possible that these men have also had negative experiences with Black women, that, you know, they're hearing this voice that has a platform that's speaking about these negative experiences and highlighting areas of opportunity that Black women need to focus on? Isn't it possible that it's because they've also experience the same thing, not him infecting them, but they're like, they have shared experiences, I guess.
No, I think it's more so the shock value that is causing the platform to grow. If I'm honest, you know, a lot of people come to his shows to see the Black woman like dissected and like destroyed. You know, there are a lot of men of other races that have sent me comments and in support of Kevin, and those men, you know, don't date Black women. You know, they date women in their community, and they, you know, support Kevin and what he's doing, and you know, kind of what he's saying. The thing is, you know, what he's doing and what he's saying is, you know, squarely centered on the Black woman when we talk about the negative aspects of it, because he has mentioned how all of the women of those other races, you know, are, you know, seemingly better choices than what us Black women, quote unquote, do, and kind of the culture that we find ourselves in. So I think that the platform is growing because men, you know, like to see the Black woman beat up.
Well,
that's what I think.
Let me ask you this. People can't put on display what they don't have in front of them, right? So you have Black women actively just doing stuff for the sake of doing it, no rhyme or reason. It's just that I'm gonna do it because you can't tell me what to do. I'm in a certain spot. This is what I want to do. F everybody. I don't care what you think. I'm not looking to be under your authority. I'll still have all these kids without anybody's any father being around. What do you say to that? Because this is what's on display for everybody to see. I've said that Black women have become the face of, we represent the ghetto. And I'm saying, like, and it's such a bad way, like we're representative of that. And I don't think that a lot of us care. What do you say in regards to that?
Now when you say actively doing stuff, like what do you mean by these women are actively doing things? Like what kind of things are they actively doing? Are you saying giving birth to the children is
we lead statistics in single parenthood. We, with the bonnets and the slippers and the pajama wears and the weaves and you know, and I'm not saying that other women don't participate in these types of behaviors, but we have seemingly become the face of that when it comes down to our representation. When you turn on your TV and you turn on a housewife, of course they have white women doing the same thing, and I've watched some of their shows. They do some of the same things, but it seems like our shows are highlighted when we participate in that. I've watched the Bad Girls Club, and Curlin had me watching this mess about a month ago, and I was just appalled. It was my first time seeing it. It's like we've seemingly become the face of everything that's messed up about women. Black women have become the representation of that. And then when you have other races of men and they do these online studies about other races of men not wanting to date us, or when you deal with other races of men and they say they don't deal with black women, they don't want to deal with black women. When you listen to Cynthia G, and she has a white man on, and he's saying that black women are welcome at their table to basically compete, and to compete with men, not with white women. You know, it says a whole lot to me, and I'm just curious, like, what do you think about that with what we're putting out as a community of women?
I think that this is where we have to be honest with ourselves as Black men and Black women, and really think about um, why we are portrayed on both sides, the way that we are in media, right? We have the men being the thugs and, homosexual or, um, just irresponsible. And then we have the women being, you know, overweight and quote unquote ghetto and, unattractive, undesirable. And we really need to think about collectively how we are portrayed as a people. I think that a lot of Black women play into that. We play into it. When the bonnet thing happened, I was shocked to see so many Black women, ride hard for their bonnet outside. I was really disappointed in that, because we have this whole femininity movement and we have this, luxury for Black women movement and, high value Black women, movement going on social media. But then when the bonnet conversation came up, we had so many women, saying that it was okay to kind of allow that to be associated with our image. And then we had Black men also join in on the conversation and say that the bonnet was okay and they were pictured, wearing their own bonnet in solidarity of Black women being able to wear their bonnets. And women of other races were chiming in saying that there was nothing wrong with the Black woman wearing her bonnet. And we really need to think about what that means for other people, right? What that means for other people is that the Black race in general is kind of taking out of the running for higher level discourse, for higher level conversation, higher level opportunity, higher level resource. The last person that you would think to give one of those opportunities to would be a Black person, because we think that deep down, even though he has on a suit and he looks good and clean and everything, he's just a baby daddy or, has that lower level element to him. And even though she, looks nice today, deep down she has that bonnet wearer mentality to her as well. So when we allow ourselves to be portrayed that way and then perpetuate those same images and allow other people to make us feel comfortable in doing so, we ultimately serve, a disservice to ourselves in general. Ourselves as an entire group. There was the single parent thing. When you talk about the fact that we are the face of the single parent, I understand why the men
Or
are
the
upset.
face of the ratchet, to be more specific.
Okay,
Than
yeah. Well, I
yeah.
spoke to the ratchet piece, right?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay. So when we go to the single parenthood piece of it, I understand why the guys are upset with me. And I understand why they are I understand why they mad. I don't understand why they sending me these crazy comments and stuff. But I understand why they mad because like they say when Kevin is being his hard-nosed self and, quote unquote, holding us accountable. They say the truth hurts. But the reality is that when we think about the single parent numbers, we just have to be honest about the fact that what that story is really telling us is that Black men are consistently dropping the ball across the board. It's my perspective that Black American men have a culture that they all kind of are aligned with. And in that culture, family, marriage, children, all of those things, and even education to some degree, you know, Kevin has spoken about that a little bit. Those things aren't of high importance. And so, you know, what a woman's body does is create a child. What a man's body does is allow or give permission for a woman's body to create that child. Okay, so once that man is there and kind of made things possible, made the environment possible for a child to be created, you know, a woman really has, you know, little choice over if she'll actually create the child. She does have choice on if she will allow the child to be born, but in terms of, you know, the foundational pieces, you know, without him, it wouldn't be possible. So we have a lot of women going forward and having those children and becoming single mothers. We have a high number, a significantly high number in our community of them. But when you look at races across the board, single mother numbers are increasing across the board. And when we look at, you know, the fathers of a lot of these single mothers, you know, the single parent children, however you want to, you know, say it, these children that are being born out of wedlock, you know, there is a correlation between the two. And we have to be honest about that. There is a part of the black man, the black American male's culture where he doesn't value marriage. And it not only affects us, but it affects women of other races as well. When you talk about the guy that was on Cynthia's panel, you know, or the call in, I was actually listening to that show that day, and I think that it was an organic, you know, thing. Like, I think that he was just a listener of the show and kind of called in. Um, he called into the show, and she took that as an opportunity to ask him a few questions, and he spoke his mind about those things. When it comes to um, Black women being welcome at the table, you know, we talk about the numbers of Black women pursuing higher education and professional opportunities compared to Black men doing the same. And we know that there's a stark contrast between the two. So when you talk about the fact that Black women are welcome at those tables that he mentioned, is because Black women have made themselves eligible for those opportunities. I think that Black men would also be welcome. You know, I'm sure when we talk about, you know, Kevin in particular, I'm sure that he does business with white men as well. But when, as it relates to that phone call, there is a high number of, you know, Black women that have made themselves available for those opportunities when they present themselves. But the messaging in the community, you know, messaging spoken directly from Kevin, is that education isn't important, and you know, you don't get any extra value for pursuing that extra education. But in reality, and I think that's another thing that really angers Black women who do value education and know of its importance, in reality, a lot of people see that as a value. They see it as an asset, and men of other races are just confirming that that is valuable and that it is an asset.
That, you know, I think that's interesting. I'm sorry. I just wanted to say really quickly, I think that's interesting, but I do not think that it is just by design that Black women are strategically placing themselves in positions where they're able to be elevated and take advantage of some of these opportunities out here. I think that that is essentially a part of the design system of white supremacy. I think that women are being intentionally elevated above their Black male counterparts in order to impact the Black family. I think that corporate America is one of the last bastions of white supremacy, of slavery. It's the arena that white male patriarchy dominates. So I think that it's not just by chance that women are being given these opportunities. I have personally witnessed Black men, a Black man who has far more education than I do, far more experience than I do, struggle to find a job in corporate America. Very articulate, very well-rounded. I also am in a position where I influence hiring and promotion, and I see it happen. If you are a strong Black male, you are less likely to be promoted. And I will intentionally give a good assessment of those people, not rightfully so, because they're deserving of it. And I've still witnessed them be bypassed. Now, if you are more effeminate, you will, get promoted. But Black women will exceed in the arena that I work in. But I see them pass over strong Black men for promotions constantly.
Let me speak to that quickly.
Sure.
I think that I've experienced that myself. Like, I have a career, and I am a married woman, but I am still. I really want to have a spectacular career, okay? But I know I am trying to have my children as well. And I'm learning that I'm finding that I'm probably going to be stepping away from my career ambitions for a while. But even as a married woman, I still am pursuing higher education, not to compete with my husband, but to bring value to our household, whether it is, teaching the children if I want to decide to homeschool them, or being aware of more resources or opportunities because I've learned more, I've seen more, I'm more aware of things, and bring that back to my children and my husband, or even to support him in whatever way I can support him with whatever, knowledge I've gained. I think that Black women pursuing higher education gets a really bad rap because I am a proponent for higher education, the highest education possible. If you have the ambition to pursue your PhD, girl, go ahead and do it. Whether you are a single woman or a married woman, whether you are a young woman or an older woman, get as much education as you can. That's my perspective of it. I don't think that it has to be used in the form of competing with another man or competing with your husband. I think that it is an asset. I think it's something that if, tragedy strikes, you have something to fall back on. I think that it is something for your children to even gain value from, to know that their mom and hopefully their dad viewed education favorably and thought that it was valuable and saw worth in it. Okay. When we speak about
agree.
Thank you so much. Everything that I don't think it, but it seems as if almost every way that Black women seek to better ourselves, there becomes some type of negative, element to it, or some type of destruction to the family type of element to it. And
no, that's not what I'm saying at all. I don't think Black women should. I don't think Black women should shrink themselves. I think that we absolutely, like, if even when we're put in positions and it's intentional to win above our counterparts, I think that we strategically should take that opportunity and elevate our partners. Like, I'm not saying ever to shrink yourself, to do less because you think that you did not earn this opportunity. Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah. Not you in particular, and not most women, but when we talk about women, when we talk about women advancing ourselves in many different ways, or even when you want to speak about adorning ourselves, with the makeup, with the weave, with the extensions or nicer clothes or whatever, there's always man saying something bad about it. That's just what I've seen. But when you spoke about those strong Black men that you mentioned and how they were overlooked in the corporate world, my employment experiences have shown me differently. Let me tell you, I was in this one place for I ended up working there for about 7 years, and I got one raise out of that entire 7 years. I really liked the work that I was doing because it was impacting to other people. But I had the degree, I had the credentials, I had the experience, I had, the ability to kind of write these proposals and grants and all of this type of stuff that the men didn't have. These men were high school graduates, and they were promoted and elevated beyond me. I mean, so
Black
many
men?
different Black men, so many different times in so many different ways. And we had a Black CEO. And what that taught me is that when there are Black men in higher places, then that Black man is able to pull more Black men up with him. It was during that position that I had my first child, and I kind of understood it after I became a mother, because prior to having my baby, I would work. Let me tell y'all, um, I have never been very social, so I've never really been a girl to be out in the club and stuff, even though I do enjoy a little drink and relaxation and stuff. I've just never been like a club hopper, that type of thing. So you could find me working on holidays. You could find me working during extended breaks. Like I would work between, that Christmas and New Year's break that we have. Most of us are able to just relax those 5 or 6 days, but I would actually go into the office and do stuff, because I didn't have children and I was so interested in building a career and everything that I put a lot of work into what I was doing. But once I had a child, my focus shifted, and other things became important to me. So instead of feeling like I was being looked over or invalued, I saw Black men pulling other Black men in that could be more consistent than me, because I was off for 3 months with maternity leave. And if my baby even, if I heard my baby had even cried a little longer than necessary or than normal, I was leaving work to go and get my baby, so many different things. So I began to see it a little differently, but it showed me that when a Black man is in a position of power, he's able to pull more men, more qualified men along with him. And in the organization that I'm working for now, it's a really, really big organization. And that's part of the reason why I why I don't want to leave. Even though I want to have another child after this one, I don't want to leave because there are so many opportunities there. But the head CEO of my organization is Black. The regional directors and all of those people are Black. My direct supervisor is a Black man. And, a lot of the people, that are on my level, and people that the guy, my supervisor is pulling in, are all Black people, So when it comes to corporate advancement and all of that type of stuff, I don't think it is this malicious thing where women are just being handpicked and hand selected for promotion. I think that once Black men get into those positions of power and are able to make decisions, then they can more readily pull their people along. My supervisor,
that makes sense,
pulled me along.
Yeah.
I came in with my credentials and degrees and stuff, but it was a different sector than what I had normally worked in, right? But my supervisor came to me, he gave me a little entry level job. I had got it in my mind that I wasn't gonna let these people keep passing me up for promotion and stuff, so I just quit, right? I didn't have a job lined up or anything. I cashed out my 401k and I'm like, I'm on to bigger and better things because they're not gonna keep, overlooking me. So it took me about a month or so to find a new position, and that's where I am now. And my supervisor put me in an entry level position, and about 2 months after working in that position, he approached me and said, "Hey, I think you would be good working in this area. So you would need to go back to, school and get some certifications here and there, but I want you to consider it." And I mean, that was an increase in pay of about $30,000 and opened up so many other opportunities and all of that stuff. And the only reason why I was able to get it was because, he saw that value in me, and he was in a position where he could bring people who looked like him along. And since I've been on that journey, I've seen him bring so many people, even those quote unquote bonnet wearers and ain't shit niggas or whatever y'all was saying. I mean, if they have the desire to attain the certifications and, they're going to come to work on time and do the job and, be problematic, like he is bringing people on board. So I just encourage Black men to get into a seat of power. And once you are in that seat and you're able to make those decisions, bring your people along.
Okay. Well, I do have one last final question because we do have our after show, which is going to start at 1:35 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It will be an open panel. We're not going to let you guys come all on at once. So
yeah, we'll rotate you guys in and out, but you guys will be able to come up and ask your questions on the panel once we wrap up. So we're wrapping up our final questions and get ready to click the link for our after show, which will be just in a few minutes.
Yeah, thank you. If Kevin Samuel's channel gets taken down, what do you think that would accomplish?
Ultimately, I feel that it would start the conversation that, derogatory statements inciting violence against women, attacking women or whatever, those statements aren't to be tolerated, right? So many times, I think that historically Black women have kind of turned a blind eye to the public mistreatment from Black men and the quote unquote tough love from Black men in view of the world. But I think that if he were to be removed from this easily accessible platform like YouTube and like Instagram, then it will show that that type of rhetoric just isn't to be tolerated. Aside from my goal there, I also am interested in working with some state and federal legislators so that we can have some enhancement around sentencing for domestic violence convictions and things like that, just so that we can further send the message that, abuse, domestic abuse, violence, that type of language and rhetoric has real world implications and they won't be taken lightly.
Okay. Well, Goldie, that was it answered.
I got one more too.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So my final question, I just want to know, Goldie, from you, like, what is the appropriate recourse that you think men should employ or exercise regarding their disdain or their disappointment in Black women, regarding their concerns for the community? Do you think that they should just, exercise SYSBM as an appropriate action? Do you think what would be the appropriate response to what they feel is negative behavior coming from Black women that negatively impacts the community? What do you think Black men should do?
Going back to my initial statements, I view men as the leader, right? I view men as being in charge. They set the tone, they set the direction. It's kind of like up to them. The environment that they create is what we will have. A lot of times I say that you can look out your window and kind of see the kind of community that Black men have created. And when we look out our windows in our communities, what do you see? Black men are largely responsible for what it is that we see. So what I would encourage Black men to do is to really step into their higher nature, become their best selves, and becoming that 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 depiction of their higher nature, their best selves, the women and children will naturally fall into place, right? When men show other men holding men accountable and not, criticizing or making excuses through the women or what women do or women's behavior, but when men really take accountability and responsibility for their own actions, their own image, their own words, and how those words make and how those words create a reality for the women and children that live in that world, I think that things will improve by leaps and bounds in just a short amount of time. So what I would encourage men to do is to really begin to take an introspective look. It's really easy to say what women aren't doing or what women haven't done correctly, but I would encourage men to really take some time and look within and determine what are some things that we can be better at. What are some things that we could do better? Where are some areas that we can improve in? What are some mistakes that we're making? Just really ask those questions and commit to doing the work necessary to improve. It seems from Kevin's rhetoric, over the last year or so, and then the tone of the community that he comes from, that men are, for lack of a better term, above reproach, as if they don't have any room for improvement, as if they aren't making any mistakes, as if they cannot be better than who they are today. And I think that ultimately that serves as a disservice for all of us, because like I said, the women and children are depending on the guys to get it right. For so many years, men have been silent. I saw one of the comments speaking about my video about men being asleep for the past 30 years. For the past 30 or 40 years, or however long you want to go back, men have been silent to the injustices inflicted upon themselves and even their women and children, and the reality that has created for all of us. If men could step up and be more vocal about what's right and be in a position to take advantage of those opportunities and spread those resources when they are available and yada, 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 it just would improve the women that they complain about, the children that the women give birth to, in the community that we all live in. So yeah, I would encourage men to really take a look within and see how they can make improvement. Oh, and doing the work to manifest in that improvement.
Thank you, Goldie, for answering my question. We are actually going to start the process to shut it down. And but before doing that, because someone asked this question and I meant to ask you earlier, it's just a quick question. Have you seen a surge in growth on your channel as a result of the petition?
Yeah, I've gotten a few new subscribers, and shout out to them. I've seen some of their names come across the screen, so they did support this broadcast today. I'm not looking at the YouTube chat, the chat underneath the video. I'm just looking at what's coming through the super chat. And thank you, ladies, for coming over and supporting this broadcast and the important work that that Sister George and Concrete Rose are doing. But see, look, we got Cannon Wiles right here and his petition for a babysitter and formula milk.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I plan to breastfeed my baby, so hopefully
We don't
we
need the
won't need
formula milk.
formula. But I don't know why I would need a babysitter, when I'm perfectly capable of, watching my own babies. Just really derogatory and
Yeah,
unnecessary comments to women. Women have children, that's what we do. And his
absolutely.
$5 wouldn't be enough to cover any of that. So he
Listen,
needs to
that
be
is the
donated
greatest gift.
like $75, okay? And we can start talking, all right?
That's the greatest gift that a woman can have. So kudos to you. I'm excited for you and your new upcoming bundle of joy. It's so dope to like bring forth life. That is like the most beautiful thing in the world. So congratulations to you. And we want to give you a few minutes to get yourself together. So we want to start the process to shut it down, but not before telling you thank you. This was like extremely dope, very valuable information and just great discussion, huh, Danny?
Yes, it was. It really was. We had some tough questions. You went through those tough questions. And I didn't know you were pregnant. So, yeah, that I'm almost sitting here in a state of shock. I'm so excited for you though, because motherhood is such a beautiful thing, and especially with your husband.
Yeah,
All that
and
good
he's
stuff.
so excited.
That's so good. Like,
Yeah.
that is so good. So
Mhm.
I'm really
Can I
excited.
ask you why
I'm
you
so
are
glad.
shocked about it?
Huh?
Can I ask you why you're shocked about it?
Because we didn't know. We had no clue. And
Yeah,
it was like, then I started to worry about like
the
being,
stress. Yeah, this is
yeah, like
stressful.
being in this situation is like, it's a stressful type of it's a stressful type of situation, especially with everybody coming for you,
Right.
especially
That was my immediate concern too. Yeah, like, oh my
yeah,
gosh, she's pregnant and people are wishing death on you and all that type of stuff. That's disgusting. You as women, we automatically are like, oh my gosh, like it's just an
yeah,
instinctual protective nature, about other women. So I felt the same way, Danny.
yeah. So that was all, but I'm so thankful that you actually gave us an opportunity to interview you first and to
Absolutely.
for this exclusive. So we are really, really, really appreciative of that. Thank you so much for that.
Oh, you are so welcome. And um, I'm um, I don't want to say too much because I don't know these people online, but my children are strong children. I have a little boy growing inside of me, and I mean, he is fighting. I mean, he is raring to get up out of here. I hope that he, comes, around the due date and not give me a little early surprise or whatever. But he is just fine. Don't worry. My husband is taking very good care of me. And I think that emotionally, while I was surprised about a lot of these comments, um, I'm not shocked, okay? Like I've been in the space for a long time. So I know the venom these men can spew when they have an opposing opinion to come their way. And I think that also hinders other women from really speaking their truth, and ultimately hinders the man from growing into the man that he can, ultimately be, his best self. So I think that for like you ladies didn't know that I am expecting. So many of us don't know the mental and emotional struggles that another person is dealing with. And reading comments about my children being bastards, or people encouraging me to kill myself, that is, shocking and eye opening for me. But just imagine a woman struggling with postpartum depression or, an undiagnosed mental illness or any other form of depression. It's like we never really know what people are going through. And, we should really think more about that. Reading that a single mother who is working hard, you know, who did the right thing to give birth to her children because she wanted her child, and she is putting in all the work to take care of them, and you know, hearing someone tell her that her children are bastards, or this woman that has overcome a crazy bout of depression and see the beauty in the sun rising and the sun setting, and reading comments about people encouraging her to kill herself. You know, you never know where those comments can take a person. So I encourage the men who find it, you know, necessary to type in text like that, really give some thought to it.
Thank you. I agree. It's that's pretty sad and pretty despicable, and that is abuse. I don't deny when I see abuse happening. That is abuse, and it's despicable, and it hurts my heart to know that people can be so vile. I'm extremely empathic, so it just hurts to hear that people are, you know, saying abusive things like that. It's despicable. But definitely blessings to you and your baby. We want to give you a chance to kind of get everything squared away, so we want to give you a few minutes to do that, and while we get ready and prepare to fire up the stream. But I can't thank you enough. This was so dope and just our pleasure. Like I've enjoyed this thoroughly.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and thank you for being your usual bad cop self, Concrete. I don't even know why Sister George had to ask you which topic we were today, because she should have already known that Concrete was coming with the guns ablazing. Okay,
baby, listen.
Woke cop in the chat. I'm woke cop.
Honey, I was like, I'm tired of being on the other side. Child, she
you live over there, though. You live over there,
baby. You need to call Concrete Greyhound, honey, because I be all under the bus, baby. Listen, all under the bus.
She be acting up, you know. Even if I'm not commenting, I'm in the clouds, and Concrete just be going off sometimes.
Listen, only what people deserve. I was really, you know, I try to be tactful, but like I said, when you come with the white supremacist talking points, not you, I'm talking about like the people that come on the show, then baby, it's a trigger for me. I can't lie, it's a trigger. I need a little therapy myself.
We know.
Yeah. She was warming off the other day before y'all took y'all break, so I'm happy that she got a little chance to calm down, and Sister George, you got a little chance to rejuvenate and recuperate. Okay,
listen, honey, I be having
I think she mixing us up. I think, Goldie, you do know that this is Concrete and the other person speaking.
She know exactly who you are.
Baby, I am the sweet one.
Yeah, I love both of you ladies. Thank you so much for inviting me and having this conversation. I think it's a much needed conversation, and gives both sides really some things to think about. And I'm looking forward to seeing you ladies at the after show, the panel. I'm looking forward to engaging with some of these guys, because I don't hate any of you. Okay, I don't hate Kevin or anything like that. And I just think that we need to have these open conversations more often. All right, so I'll see you ladies over there. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Take your time. We'll get it fired up, and I'll forward you the link, and you can join us. You know, after you took your break, and you know, do what you need to do.
Okay. Thank you so much. See you ladies later.
Okay. Bye, Goldie.
Right, thank you, Goldie. Bye, Goldie. Shout out to everybody.
Go ahead,
shout out to everybody that came through, everybody that super chat, everybody that cashed app, everybody that came and rocked with us in the chat. Really, really, really appreciate you guys. Come on over to the after show. I'm sure it's going to be
about to be lit. It's about to be lit. It's a lituation. Yes. Absolutely.
Oh, he said we for softballs. I can't stand people.
Listen. Okay, well, you're about to have the chance to ask your own questions during the after show. I feel like we asked the questions that needed to be asked within the limited time that we had, but thank you for the super chat anyways. Come on over to the after show, and you can throw a couple hardballs.
If you have any. Oh
my gosh. Go ahead on.
Well, we'll see you in a minute. Bye.
Peace.